Hi guys, it's Julie Workman from Arch Ford. I'm here to show you a quick way that you can begin to think about documenting some of your evidence for science of reading. So let me just go ahead and share my screen so that you can see what that looks like. So one of the things that if you've been to assessor training, you know that you have access to is the Life Binder. And this is a great resource for you to come back and check often because they are updating that. So I just want to start with the Smart Card. You have them for K2, you also have them for 3-6, but let's take a look at the Smart Card here. And we know that this Smart Card is not intended to be a checklist, but instead it's really to give us an idea of what are the things that we should really be looking for when it comes to the 5 components and each of those areas that is so important with science of reading. So with this Smart Card, something else that they've done is they have gone back and added the components for tests, which can make that very helpful when it comes to putting this into EdReflect and using your science of reading evidence as evidence for any of the observations or evaluations that you're doing as well. So what we have done at Arch Ford is we took the Smart Card and we turned that into just a regular Google form. So let me show you what this looks like. You can see that this is the sample form, and the way that you're going to have access to this is I'll show you at the end of this video how to get that and click on it and make a copy. And once you make a copy, now you have the ability to modify however you want. So what will be, what you'll see on that form already is teacher name, date, time, similar to what you might use if you were doing a walkthrough. And so when you begin to think about documenting your science of reading evidence, it's not that you set up one observation and you go in and you expect to see all of these different things, but rather it's that you go and you just see little things at a time. But over time and over the course of the year, you're looking at that preponderance of evidence. So when I scroll down here, you see the boxes are exactly the same as the Smart Card. We have the fundamental expectations. You can see those test components are listed to make it a little bit easier. And then also notice that each one of these is a checkbox. That's so that you can mark as many of these as you see at one time. When you go to the bottom, you see that you have a section for notes there, which might be helpful if you're providing evidence to the teacher. Okay, so once you've got that form just like you want it, and like I said, you can modify it if there are certain things that you want to look for based on programs that you expect your teachers to be using or other components that you're adding in, you'll have the flexibility to be able to do that. So once you send that form to yourself, and then it comes up, I like to keep it just in my email there so that it's available. So then now you can see that it's in the form version where I can actually fill this out. So let's say I walk into a classroom and I go see Miss Sally and she's teaching, and so I can put the information in, and let's say it's March the 13th, and let's just say I go in and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and she teaches kinder, and let's see, I'm going to see centers. Okay, during this time. So with those fundamental expectations, I'm always looking for what are these things that I'm seeing that might run through all of the content that she is teaching. So when I go in, I said that she was doing centers. So I need to think about what evidence am I seeing there in terms of fundamental expectations. So when I look around, I see, okay, some of these students are using multisensory. I see her and she's really posing some purposeful questions. I also listen in some of the kids talking in groups. Maybe they're talking to each other, posing those questions. And then I would continue to just work through based on what I see here. So I'm just going to click a few of these for time's sake so that we know what we're seeing and show you what happens. And so maybe I'm going to say all 5 students engaged. And maybe I want a note of something. Let's talk about the text students are using. Okay, so just put that in my notes section. So when I submit that, then I come back and you can see here I have 7 responses. So this is when it's compiling all of my responses together, which can be very helpful in terms of thinking about professional development, and just letting my staff look at. Here are the practices that I'm seeing on a pretty regular basis. Engaging students in the learning. That's one that we're seeing a lot of, versus when I begin to see a little bit further down, providing access, grouping students based on skill rather than needs. Maybe I'm not seeing that So that's just one way that you might be able to use that. If you want to be able to look at it in terms of each particular box, phonological awareness, I don't see anybody providing evidence of implementing a systematic and explicit phonological awareness program. So that's an indicator to me of something that we could possibly work on. Where this really becomes helpful, though, in terms of science of reading documentation is when you click right here and you create the spreadsheet. So I've already created the spreadsheet. And when you look at this, you can see that I've got some sample walkthroughs here. And you can see that these are already sorted by the name. If you're not sure how to sort that, you just click on all of those, data, sort, and you can sort them by any of these headings. So if I really want to look at the type of documentation that I have in terms of a particular teacher, then sorting it by that teacher's name is going to be really important. So let's take a look here. You see I've got Mr. John, and he's a 3rd grade math and science teacher. And when I start going across, I can see that I've got some evidence there. It's a little bit hard to look at in this way because all of that evidence is running together. So something I can do is, again, click right here in this box, and I can come over to this box where it says text wrapping, click in that middle one, and now what it's going to do is wrap my text so that I can read all of it. So in terms of Mr. John, he's a 3rd grade math and science teacher. I see some evidence for fundamental expectations in those 2 times that I've been in his classroom. I don't see any phonological awareness, which at first might seem like a concern, but when we go back to what he's teaching, well, this is a math and science teacher. So it may not be that I ever see that unless he's teaching an intervention group or something where I know he's got some students who really need that type of support. However, with it being math and science, I would expect to see some vocabulary. So I've got some evidence there for that. He's got lots of evidence for oral language and phonics. Again, not much evidence there, but again, not expected in a math and science classroom. And then some for comprehension, and then I have my notes. So when I'm looking at that, over the course of time, over the course of a year, if I have all of the times that I've gone into Mr. John's room and I've collected this evidence, then that's going to give me a really good source of documentation to be able to say that, yes, this teacher is proficient in science of reading practices, or no, maybe he's got some areas where he needs some work. So let's take a look at another example. I've got Miss Karen here, who is a 1st grade teacher, and I've got 3 walkthroughs that I've done on her. So again, I see some evidence in fundamental expectations. I don't see a whole lot. There's some in phonological awareness, but when I go to vocabulary, I don't see any at all. So this might be something that, you know, I'm not going to catch vocabulary every time I'm in there, but if I've already been in there 3 times and I haven't found any evidence, that might be something that we could really use to sit down and talk about with a PGP goal. Do some PD there to really support her with that so that she understands what those sound practices are. The other thing is if Miss Karen was up for having her summative evaluation for this class, for this year, then this would give me a really easy way to be able to collect some evidence just by copying and pasting, taking this evidence, popping it right into EdReflect, and then I don't even have to think about components. They're already there, so I can highlight and I can tag those components as well. So the important thing is that you have that evidence and that you're able to go back and look at that and use that to guide practice. This is also a really good source to use to guide the Science of Reading PD that needs to be provided for teachers each year to really target that so that you're meeting the needs of your teachers. So where do I get this form? If you are familiar with our Archford page, so you know that you just go to archford.org and scroll down on that page, and what you will see are the Archford administrators. So if you click right there, it's going to bring you up with all of our administrator resources. What you're looking for here is Science of Reading. And so when you find Science of Reading, you're going to click on that. And this is going to be where our resources are posted. So as you're looking for those forms, you can see that they're right here. And when you click on that, let's just say we click on the K2 form, it's going to look just like this and say, would you like to make a copy? So once you click that button and you've made a copy, that form is yours. You modify that however you want, but we're just trying to help save some work for you. If you go back to that Science of Reading page, you'll also see that there's a video there. So we are working to find ideas to help you with Science of Reading professional development for your teachers. And this is a short video of how one of our principals is doing that. And we'll continue to add those resources over time. So again, I hope that this form helps you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. julie.workman@archford.org. And if you have ideas that you're using that have really helped with Science of Reading documentation, please don't hesitate to share those with me. Thanks.